Writing on the Mule Train News today and Meet Your Neighbor is Julie Culver. Julie Culver is the district coordinator for our state representative from District 88, Ken King. And of course, this is his first session in Austin representing him. Now, Julie, where do you live?
I live in Canadian, and Ken and I both were raised in Canadian.
And so you've known him a couple of days.
Well, I'm a little bit older than Ken, but I promised him I wouldn't tell any stories about him when he was younger. But yes, our families have been friends for many years.
So I know this is really exciting for you to work for our state representative, and I know it's even more exciting for him to be there really representing us in Austin. And it's a big district.
Yes, it is. They actually took 3 districts and made it into one District 88. And so people still ask us if we're their state representative. We have people in Lubbock call us a lot of times thinking that we're their representative because they see signs. And so it's been a little bit confusing, but hopefully it will stay that way.
Well, politics is confusing. And so now let's get down to this session right now. What particular committees has he been appointed on to this session?
Ken is on the Education Committee, which he was very excited about because he's been on our school board in Canadian, and with his experience on the school board, he wanted to take that to the state. And so he's very proud to be on that committee, and also on the committee, and I can't remember the name, it's Jurisprudence Committee. Mm-hmm. And he's learned a lot on that committee and didn't know much about it and has really enjoyed that as well.
Good. And so there's several things I've been thinking about. Of course, our Second Amendment rights. I think we all have been thinking about that. How does he stand, and what are the people saying across our huge district of the Panhandle and South Plains?
Basically, they say, leave us alone. So, and Ken, actually on the state level, that's more of a national issue, but not all of it is, but most of it's a national issue. But Ken is a lifelong member of NRA, and he and his son hunt together, and he believes that you can't ever have enough guns and ammo, as my husband says. So.
Also, now, is this a state issue right now, or am I completely wrong? You know, people get welfare. And I'm hearing in the news, you know, we need some kind of checks and balances on that. You know, maybe putting a drug test into welfare.
Ken has actually been working on that some, and I don't know the specifics of the bill. And every time I say anything about a bill out loud, it changes the next day, and then it's not true anymore. But I know that Ken really feels like that we should have an accountability system, and he wants to help the people that really need help. And there's a lot of people that cheat the system, and if someone's on drugs, then they're cheating the system because they're not being good citizens and not being part of our communities in the right way. So he would like to see people be accountable.
And many of those people who are on drugs then could work and wouldn't have to be on welfare if they weren't on drugs.
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely.
Now, in this area of Texas, around Lubbock, we've heard so much about texting and driving. I don't know in your area of the Panhandle if you have, but the young lady who was killed several years ago up in the Seagraves area. And the first time our governor vetoed the bill after it was passed. What happened this session? I know it passed through at least one, passed through the House, but what has happened to it?
I can't actually tell you on that. I know that I just heard on the radio today on the way down that all of the big telephone companies are all going together to put a big campaign about not texting and driving. And There's always pro and con on everything, and I've had people calling into the district office telling us that they wanted Ken King to vote against any kind of bill against texting and driving, not because they didn't think you shouldn't text and drive, but that people should be smart enough for us not to mandate a law that they have to do that. It's the same thing on seat belts, and then we've had other people calling and saying that they did, of course, want him to support it. But there's always people for and always people against
everything.
Yes.
Even you'll be surprised. Right. And now, as you've been visiting in the district, what do you think is the number one concern for Texas legislators to look at in this session? And we're getting close to the end of it.
Right. Well, I really couldn't say one. I know people in the district are concerned about water. They're concerned about education. They're very concerned about transportation. But those are the three issues that I get most calls about. And it's not just issues in our district, it's statewide.
Now, you said you get calls. How can they call you, Julie?
Oh, we have, actually, we don't have an office. We're saving the state money. I have an iPad, an iPhone, and a car. And I just go everywhere in the district. Today I was in Levelland for lunch. Last Thursday I was in Levelland for a different meeting and then went to Plainview to a chamber event the day before that. I just go around. Wherever there's something going on, I go. And so anybody can call me at 806-323-3080. And
now, say it again and go slow.
Okay, 806-323-3080, and leave me a message and I will get back with them. And then, so we don't... Ken's regular business office is what he's considering his state office in Canadian. And of course, if anybody's going to come to Canadian, they would need to call ahead to make sure he's going to be there. And you're not going to come to Canadian unless you have a reason to come, and you're not just going to show up at the door, I would imagine. But anyway, if we do have meetings in Canadian, then we meet at Ken's office. So.
And now, the office in Austin. Tell us what floor it's on, and if you walked in the front door of the Capitol, how would you find your representative, Ken King?
I think you would go up to information and ask him. I have not been to Austin this session. I've not been to Ken's office. And I used to work for Dick Waterfield back in the 80s. And during that time, he was in the basement. And I imagine Ken's squished in the basement as well.
Well, being a freshman in the House of Representatives, I'm afraid he is too. But Austin, or the Capitol, has improved so much, and they've expanded, and the basement may not be that bad.
Right. Well, wherever they are, they're good. And I know they have a small office, and Ken has a great legislative aide, a girl named Megan Clegan, and he has a great chief of staff, Cheryl Lively. And then we have a young intern that she's in law school at the University of Texas from Pampa, and her name's Heather Coffey, and they run our office, and they're doing a good job. So you can call Austin, and or you can call me, and either way, we're going to take care of you.
Now, what would the Austin telephone number be? Okay. I don't want to get you in hot water.
Yeah, as soon as I say it out loud, I just hit Ken in Austin, and it goes there. I'm sorry, call me, and I'll give you the number in Austin. Or also, you can look it up online. Just put State Representative Ken King, and it has our Austin office in the phone number. I'm sorry, I don't have it in my head.
It's okay. Now, Julie, tell us a little bit about yourself. Now, how did you get in this position, and have you worked in other political campaigns and for other politicians?
Well, I actually started working in 6th grade from a man named Ufi Abraham from Canadian that was a state representative. And my sister and I used to go hand out wooden nickels on the campaign trail. And then I went from there. I volunteered on Congressman Bob Price's campaign. He was from Pampa, and I worked for him. And then I got a paying job with Governor Clements and worked for him. And in between those, I was teaching elementary school, and I retired 29 years of teaching first, second, and fourth grades, and had retired for.
All in Canadian?
No, ma'am. Some in Oklahoma, some in Amarillo, some in Canadian, mostly in Canadian. And then my husband, I was retired for 2 weeks. I retired because my parents are elderly and they needed my help taking care of them. And after 2 weeks, my husband said, "You got to find something to do." And I heard Ken King's running for state representative. You should talk to him. And and I forgot to say, I worked for Dick Waterfield, who was from Canadian. He was a state rep in the 80s. So anyway, we had one in the 60s, one in the 80s, and now we have Ken King. But anyway, so I just kind of told Ken I was going to work for him, and I was his campaign coordinator and ran his campaign in the district, and then stayed on as his district coordinator. And my job is just to meet people in the district and take the issues to Ken and get him the knowledge that we all have.
Well, thank you for taking your time and visiting with us here on the Mule Train News. I bet you've never ridden a mule train before.
I probably have. But no, we really have enjoyed coming to Muleshoe. We came before for a pre-legislative tour. Ken and I did, and had a big crowd, and we just really enjoyed meeting people in Muleshoe. Ken had been several times before on the campaign trail, but we will be back on a post-legislative tour after the session. They're saying they might have a special session, but whenever it ends, we will be back so people can come and ask Ken about the session and what happened this time, and start planning for next time.
Okay, thank you. You're welcome. We've been visiting here on the Mule Train News today. Meet Your Neighbor with Julie Culver. She is from Canadian, and she works for our state representative of District 88, Ken King. He's serving the very end of his last session in Austin in our stead. And Julie Culver, it has your ear. If you need to get to Ken King, well, you can contact Julie, and she, I know, will pass your concerns on to him.